Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can all see me. So let's start. The webinar says it starts by 11 a.m. So we'll proceed with the webinar today so as not to waste our time. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on how ESG is shaping the financial landscape. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here with us today. My name is Chimamaka Nwosu. I am the Sustainability Specialist at Quantum Zenith. Quantum Zenith is a leading Nigerian investment bank with over a decade of experience. We offer a comprehensive suite of financial services through our specialized companies. We have the Quantum Zenith Asset Management, the Quantum Zenith Capital, the Quantum Zenith Securities, and the Quantum Zenith Trustees. So, before we dive into the intricacies of environmental, social, and governance practices, let's take a moment to reflect on the significance of this topic. In today's global landscape, ESG considerations are not just buzzwords anymore. They are crucial factors shaping how businesses operate, how investments are made, and ultimately how our world evolves. So over the next 90 minutes, we'll embark on a journey to explore the fundamentals of ESG, whether you're a seasoned professional seeking to deepen your understanding or someone entirely new to the concept. This webinar aims to provide you valuable insights and actionable strategies to integrate ESG principles into your business practices. So I encourage each of you to actively participate throughout the session. Feel free to ask questions, share your thoughts, and engage with our esteemed speaker. This webinar is not just a presentation, it is an opportunity for collaborative learning and meaningful dialogue. And so we hope that by the end of the webinar, you'll be able to explain core principles of ESG, its role in sustainability, you'll be able to analyze trends in driving ESG growth, articulate the financial benefits of integrating ESG practices into business strategies, and also recognize the potential risk associated with poor ESG performance. So a quick rundown on how questions will be asked during the presentation. Questions are only allowed after the presentation. And so you're also free to type your questions directly into the chat function. We'll monitor the chat function throughout the end of throughout the presentation. And at the end of the presentation, your questions will be asked to our speaker. Also, once again, I extend my sincere gratitude to all of you for being here today. Your presence enriches this conversation, and together we can drive positive change through ESG initiatives. So let's embark on this journey together, shall we? Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker for today's webinar, Mr. Adewale Lawal. So I'll just give you a brief summary on Mr. Lawal's profile. Mr. Adewale Lawal is a senior manager and technical lead for sustainability services at Mazars in Nigeria. He has over 11 years of experience across energy, financial institutions, FMCGs, oil and gas, mining, agriculture, telecommunications, public sectors, among others. He has rendered several sustainability services to leading organizations in Nigeria, such as Decarbonization Plan, ESG Framework, ESG Reporting, Impact Assessment, ESG Risk Management, Environmental and Social Management System Development, Community Development, amongst others. His most recent experience includes leading his team to develop ESG framework, sustainability strategy, and ESG reporting readiness for clients in Nigeria. And Mr. Adewale Lawal holds a Bachelor and Master of Science in Sociology from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria, and Master of Arts in Global and International Social Policy from the University of Sheffield, United Kingdom. Additionally, he holds membership with the Nigerian Institute of Management. He's a certified lead auditor, environmental management systems, certified lead implementer, occupational health and safety management systems. He's also a certified governance, risk management, and compliance professional, among others. Mr. Adewale Lawal has served as a panelist and moderator at several conferences, seminars, locally and internationally, on ESG and climate change related topics. And so he has written and contributed to several thought leadership articles on climate change and sustainability. And it goes to show you that today's webinar is not just a presentation, we're going to be talking about practical experiences, practical tips on how you can integrate ESG into your business operations. And so I'll be yielding the floor to our distinguished speaker for today's event so that we can start with the webinar for today. Thank you so much. So Mr. Adewale Lawal, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Chimamaka, for that introduction. Please confirm that you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. And
good morning, everyone. I'm trying to share my screen.
We can see your screen also. Okay. I think I can see your screen. Okay. Yes, I don't know if anyone wants to confirm that also from that.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's my pleasure to be here today to speak on this important topic, which is how ESG is changing the financial landscape. So today we know that ESG has actually gone beyond the buzzword that people just use that we are doing sustainability or just like a taking bus exercise, or just for compliance sake. People have now realized that ESG can actually help to make informed decisions for organizations. A lot of organizations today now, apart from trying to use integration of ESG to attract investment, they also understand that ESG can also help them in saving costs for their organizations. So today, we know that ESG now represents some of the facts that we commonly use in terms of how we can create a business model. If in creating the business strategy, it's also expected that organizations should align ESG as part of a strategy. This is a way of also to achieve competitive advantage, not just looking at your strategy in terms of from the financial angle. Now focusing on the non-financial aspect, which environmental, social, and governance is actually pointing us towards. So it is now imperative for players in the financial institutions to engage in ESG-related factors to future-proof their business, so that to create that resilience and ensure that whatever they are making the investment on is something that they understand the environmental issue, climate change concerns from there, the social concerns about people, the labor issues, the supply chain concerns. Also, they understand that they need to put in place the right governance mechanism to be able to implement the ESG strategy. So today, the integration of ESG into business model will definitely help to manage and mitigate ESG risks that can affect financial performance. So what is even this ESG? ESG is an acronym for environmental, social, and governance. It's like a matrix that is used to measure how well an organization is performing in terms of sustainability. In 1987, the Portland Commission defined sustainability as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the needs of future generations to meet their own needs. Trying to say that for us, for businesses to exist for several years and decades, they need to integrate environmental, social, and governance. Just look beyond just thinking about cash flow, doing well. Financing has now changed from the traditional financing that when organizations want to invest in an organization, what they're concerned about is, are they doing well? But now we now realize that ESG is integrating ESG, doing business in a responsible way, will not actually affect organization performance in terms of financial performance. We actually help to drive those performance. We've seen several studies that have been done by scholars in different universities, great universities like Cambridge, like Harvard, which they also relate that there is a relationship between ESG integration and financial performance for organization. So today now, ESG are now emerged. For organizations to achieve sustainable business, to be sustainable, you have to look at the different components of the ESG, the environmental, the social, and the governance. What has even this ESG about? We have done, these are some narratives of ESG factors. For instance, from the environmental factor, we have issue about land degradation, climate change, energy management, waste management, water resource management, pollution. responsible sourcing, deforestation, air quality, biodiversity protection, and environment. Before people don't really concern about that. For instance, let's say you want to invest in a client in the oil and gas sector. In the past, people don't really concern. What they are concerned about is is the company doing well? Do they have the good kind of year-to-year financial performance doing well? In the last 10 years, they've been in operation, but they've been doing well. But they are not looking towards maybe they are able to mitigate the issue about oil spill management. Because the issue of oil spill can be a serious concern if they are not taken into consideration. They may have been surviving by not taking that into consideration, but there will be time that community people that can lead to from environmental issue can lead to social issues, whereby the community people will protest and disrupt the operation of that particular oil and gas company. As such, they will not be able to meet their profitability because their operation will be disrupted as a result of not taking into consideration environmental concern that have not led to social issues. So that's why organization now is not trying to put in place governance factors into play in terms of ensuring board diversity and governance, even having board oversight on ESG, so that they are able to really look at the ESG issues within their business and maximize the opportunities that ESG can offer to the organization. They also put in place several compliance, transparency, and disclosure mechanisms from the governance aspect to be able to embed environmental and social as part of their business strategy. Today, we now understand that also for a business to exist, not for so that one generation can also have access to a particular business, it's also good to also look at employee concern, labor issues, labor welfare too. Because when you treat your staff very well, they will give you the best. And that is at the end of the day, it will add to your profitability. So people now realize that before it's just about financial, no issues about people. That's why some organizations are not changing their focus that we are people-centric organization, because they realize the angle that if we focus on our people, if we treat them well, they will deliver very well to our clients. We know that every business exists to make profit, but at the end of the day, if you don't take care of your employee, they may not really provide you the right support and service that you require for your client, for the client that the business exists cater for. As such, that can affect the financial performance of an organization. That's why organizations are now focusing on not providing the necessary training, the support, the welfare for employees, so that they retain talent and they also to remain competitive in the market. So that's another dimension that people are now looking at different issues. Also, community issue, community engagement. A lot of organizations now today now have what they call corporate social responsibility, CSR strategy approach or initiative that is aligned to the community, to the people, the needs of the community. As such, through that, they are attracting interest from the community people. They want to see, because of this particular company that is doing this, it's like, I would like to even know more about their product. They are really doing well. That can also serve as an avenue to attract our customers to also build your business by showing that you care about the community, about the environment, taking some initiatives. Sometimes a lot of organizations look at the kind of strategy that we align to their product, to what they do in terms of their CSR projects, so that they can use that to also attract customers. That is not as a strategy in terms of corporate social responsibility, because businesses must look at it, how can this so hard doing business in a responsible way? How can it add to my bottom line? Which is also what ESG is trying to talk about. Today there are a lot of trends that is actually driving the need for ESG integration. Why should the organization care? Why should financial institutions care? Why should they care about ESG? We see today that there are now stakeholder concerns about ESG, especially investors. A lot of investors now, especially DFIs, they've really done well in terms of integrating ESG as part of their processes. They only reinvest when they see that you have the right environmental and social governance framework in place or strategy before they think of investing, because they also understand that if you do not put that in place, that can affect the ability, the performance of an organization. At the end of the day, they may not be able to pay back, because issue about reputational risk, issue about community concerns, issue about environmental pollution can lead to litigations, a lot of fines, and that will affect if they invest, that will affect their investment, the ability for the company that they give out money to pay back. So as such, you now look at the fact that it's important to not only to deal with or also support organizations that are concerned about ESG. So today in Nigeria, we know that a lot of organizations now that are doing ESG, that they know that that angle has been set to in terms of is more investment driven. You want to attract sustainable finance. A lot of finance, a lot of opportunities now, especially in the renewable energy space, from Green Climate Fund, come from the IFC, from the African Development Bank, coming in terms of supporting initiatives on ESG. So that is another concern that is making the need for organizations to integrate ESG. And we know today that climate change is real. The issue about climate change, changing weather pattern, we cannot even predict now when it will rain. Before we say that, okay, rainy season starts from June to August and then by October. But today we see rainfalls in February. That's part of the issue about climate change, that we show that we need to pay attention. We need to have our own contribution to the environment in terms of a ESG strategy, thinking about how do we reduce our emissions, pollution from the environmental angle, which ESG is trying to let us understand. The issue of urbanization, movement from rural areas to urban areas is also another concern about ESG. How do we ensure that people have the basic needs in the rural area so that they don't need, there is no high level of movement to urban area, so that urban area is now saturated with a lot of people, and then we do not have people who are in rural areas to also contribute to the economy. So in that regard, so ESG is also telling us how we ensure that we meet also the need of people in the rural areas. So yes, that they also contribute to that. Also the issue about consumer and employee demand. Employees now looking for organizations that cares about them in terms of their welfare, the social aspect of ESG, the social pillar of ESG, looking at organizations that care about their welfare, the welfare of their workers, organizations that really put them first. They want to work in that kind of organization. That's another thing whereby companies are now thinking about embedding ESG as part of their business strategy. And that is the changing the social demographics in society. Especially in you, there is an aging population. We are just taking notes of how we can benefit from diversity and inclusion. Organizations start taking over the importance of diversity, how we can help them to go having different ideas, different people in the board, from different background, from culture, different orientation, and then trying to come together and make decisions. And another critical aspect is regulatory requirements. We have changing regulatory requirement. For instance, in Nigeria, we have the Nigerian Sustainable Banking Principle that was introduced in 2012. We have the Climate Change Act that was released in 2021. Of course, the part of that we always have the Environmental Impact Assessment Act, EIA Act, since 1992, as was amended in 2004. Also, I'm talking about the need for environmental impact assessment and the need for ESG consideration in terms of investment, to see that you look at what are the critical environmental issues that can affect the people, community, the environment before investment, and then they also take into consideration the concerns about people. So like I said earlier, this issue about climate change, looking at the extreme weather events, temperature, sea levels, loss of biodiversity, like plants, like animals that we can see. Let us sustain it for the unborn generation so that they can also have access to it, all the ways that we have access to today. Let us keep it for the unborn generation too. Let us protect the nature. And another thing is also trying to say nature, to give you back. That's why we're trying to say that it's very important we can leverage on the abundance of solar energy, sunshine for us, to think about renewable energy in terms of solar, using the solar power, the electric source of energy for us. And the good thing is that Nigerian has actually implemented, the Nigerian government has passed into act the Electricity Act. With that act supporting renewable energy, that will go a long way if well implemented, to also help us think in that direction, to reduce our concentration on generator use and rely more, even for heavy machines, to use a hydro source of energy, because that is cleaner than using fossil fuel to generate electricity, especially for heavy machines. So that's another critical thinking of changing dimension, because as we are polluting the environment, that's how we experience heat waves today. We see that heat wave is now real because as a result of what we are passing, a lot of generators, a lot of emissions, and then it's coming back to us. Whatever you give to the nature, it returns back to you. That's one thing about GHG emission, our carbon footprint. So it's returning back to us because we are actually polluting the nature, and nature is coming back in terms of heat waves. We see that the heat wave is really serious. That's part of the climate change issues and the unpredictable pattern of rainfall that we are experiencing today. And also the negative impact of agriculture is another critical issues about the climate change. For instance, organizations who are in the financial sector invest in an organization in the agri space that is into farming. If you do not take into consideration issue about flooding, you can find out that you invest like billions of naira. At the end of the day, because of flooding, that particular company in the agri space may not be able to pay back. That's the essence of ESG consideration, trying to look at conducting appropriate environmental and social governance due diligence, how to investment, so that you know the ESG risk in that investment before investing. Because that's how we say ESG is no longer a buzzword that you just thought that, oh, they are doing well. Look at their financial performance year in, year out. In the last 10 years, they have been increasing by 10% in terms of their net income. You just look at, oh, let's invest in them, but you do not look about the issue about concern about climate, about flooding, and they're in the agri space. And at the end of the day, when you invested, you find out that there was flooding and all the crops that was planted, everything was washed away by flooding. As a result, they are not able to pay back, which will affect you having non-performing loans. So all those critical things, that's what ESG is trying to let organizations to understand that why you should really integrate ESG before making investment, even before, as I will talk to you later on. So there are a lot of values that the ESG can help organizations to create. ESG has a lot of importance for an organization in terms of making, like I said earlier, making informed decision in terms of whether to invest in an organization or not, whether to provide a kind of support to an organization with the time when you look at ESG issues, you will be able to factor in those risks as part of your consideration. Not just you looking at the management team of that particular organization. Are they, in terms of when you do know your customer, trying to know with the management team, if they are doing well, if there are people whose lifestyle you can really, they are really prudent. You look at the management concern, you look at other issues, other credit concerns, and you do not take into consideration the ESG issues about the issue about climate that can affect the performance of another thing, critical thing about ESG is that there are some other things that are reputational risk and maybe community issues. An organization that is said not to care about community issues, that is polluting the environment. When you invest on them, when they have issues about them polluting the environment, that kind of issues can come to you as an investor because they will say that you are financing an organization that is polluting the environment, that is polluting the water body, that is displacing people, losing their source of livelihood for fishing. It is a riverine environment which maybe like oil and gas that do or manufacturing company that generate a lot of pollutions, and that particular they do not have effluent treatment plants (ETP) to ensure that they are able to clean all the waste, all the kind of wastewater that they use, so that it's safer for the environment before discharging it to the environment. So all those kinds of concerns can come back to a business or to an investor in terms of reputational risk. Because as people are talking about that organization that's not doing the right thing, it also fall back to you that who are even their investor? Is this particular organization that is investing in? And that as another issue is that there may also be litigation risk, issue about litigation from the people suing them, community suing them, and they're paying a lot of fines. That fines can affect their ability to pay back the loan that they borrow from you as an investor. That's why all those critical ESG issues need to be taken into consideration before you think about financing and organizations. So, of course, we see that so another thing I will talk more on this lower cost of capital and insurance, because sometimes we look at ESG. Sometimes is about behavior. It's about everybody working together. Little as the energy management. When you're not in a particular room or office, you switch off the light. You are saving energy. That is cost saving. Sometimes you do not need to use paper when necessary. You only print when necessary. That's another cost-saving mechanism from ESG. How you can save costs from ESG. Another critical is that you only travel when necessary, reducing your business travel to reduce your emissions as a business. So to that too, you only meet travel when necessary, and you only have meetings once in a while to travel. That way you are saving costs. You are also protecting the environment at the same time. Another way is that you think about carpooling stuff. Sometimes when we report on scope 1 emission generated, we also report based on how the staff are able to commit themselves to the workplace. That's why organizations are thinking about carpooling. Some organizations try to even shut down their, ensure that people close on time so that they're able to reduce their emission from the use of generator, their fossil fuel, also the emission they generated from generator, using generator for a long period of time. That's also a way of you are saving costs through that. The amount of money you would have paid using fossil fuel, you're able to save your cost from that. At the same time, too, you are also adding to the bottom line. You're also protecting the environment in terms of reducing the amount of emissions they are generating to the environment. And then you are also helping the staff to close on time for people to prioritize their task during the office or while you are saving costs. You're also caring about the welfare of your staff. At the same time, you're also you're reducing your own emission to the environment. That's also a way of saving costs. Sometimes organizations think about all this waste, converting waste to wealth. Sometimes there are some waste that you generate within your facility, like e-waste, that you can think of recycling. Organizations that are into recycling, they may come back and pay some token instead of you just throwing them away to the environment and littering the environment. You can think about how that can also bring no matter little amount of money in terms of disposing to people who need it, not just disposing anyhow to the environment. That we can also save costs from the ESG perspective. I also protect the environment from being littered or all those things. You know, the issue about now the government is using about how can we reduce the use of styrofoam, all this and a kind of single-use disposable plates and cups. Because one thing about these disposable plates is that they are only used for once, and after that you just find it littered in the environment. I think we think about using multiple, using a cup that can use several times, like a glass cup or plastic bottle, or that can use several times. So that's that way too. You also saving costs because the amount of money you're using to buy that, no matter how little, you're saving costs from that. Trying to use a cup that you can use several times instead of using every day you buy a disposable cup you use. Every day you buy. Why can't you have one that you can wash and clean and use several times rather than using one disposable? At the end of the day, that cups or plates find itself is being littered into the environment. In that way, you are also polluting the environment. So all this, there are some practices from ESG, from the behavioral part, that organizations need to start thinking. Even employees need to start thinking from the angle when they are at home, not just at the workplace. So that way, they are able to save cost from all those little amount of money can help to reduce business cost. Of course, like I said, it can help to strengthen reputational value for an organization when you're able to integrate ESG as the core of your business. This is a particular example of from Task Force of Climate-Related Financial Disclosure, looking at ESG risk and climate-related risk and opportunities. That sometimes opportunity risk present opportunities for an organization. For instance, from transition risk, like what I say, it gives us the opportunity to know about how can we have a policy moving from a kind of focusing on dirty energy to cleaner energy, thinking about renewable energy, changing our behavior, ensuring that we look at we put into place ESG considerations as part of the business model. This gives us the ability to think about how can we use more efficient product and technology? How can we think about recycling, like I said earlier? How can we think of use of lower emitting technology? For instance, organizations are also thinking about how they can have in place, they can try to reduce their emissions. You know about, like I said, the energy saving bulb sometimes can help you to using energy saving bulb to the large extent and also save cost for an organization. That's why organization, when they look at new facilities, they try to put in place, use energy saving bulb. That you can help to save the amount of energy that you generate as a business. That's another part of benefit from ESG. And at the end of the day, now we can be able to report some of the cost savings and costs from ESG that you'll be able to achieve as a result of you integrating ESG into your business operation and activity, looking at your internal processes. What are the ESG issues and how can you reduce your emissions from energy management, from the water usage? How can you have some people have a water sensor tap now today within their facilities to ensure that is able to control the amount of water usage. People are being cautious in how they use water. That also, one way or the other, is saving costs. Also ensuring that we are preserving the natural resources, which is water. So that's another dimension of ESG, energy management, committing all those critical issues. That's another way that ESG can help us to really save costs. So there are some key ESG issues for financial institutions to really consider. Of course, it's very critical for players in the financial sector, especially when you provide support to organizations in different sectors, people in oil and gas, manufacturing, people in different sectors. If the players in the financial institution can get it right, they can serve as they can help to actually ensure that ESG is really being integrated for a lot of organizations because of their action. Because if you look at it, you support a lot of organizations looking at the kind of finance you provide. That's why in Nigeria, luckily we are part of the country that actually have in place the Nigerian Sustainable Banking Principles, with 9 principles that look at how well an organization can integrate and embed ESG as part of their strategy, ensuring that they do the appropriate due diligence, identify the necessary E&S risk within the operation. One of the critical things to consider for financial institutions is that ESG risk assessment and management. Before you, sometimes it's also important to, as you look at your enterprise risk management, you think about how can you embed climate risk issues into your enterprise risk management. Those are also issues that risk that you should also look at as to have your risk register. Look at ESG risk within your risk register to be able to identify those risks that you need to pay attention to, because it's real. If you look at there is the World Economic Forum report on the risk, global risk. Out of the top 10 global risk, ESGs, we have like ESG issues like topping, like over 30% of that particular top 10 risk are part of our ESG concerns, which organizations need to pay attention to, or companies or countries need to pay attention to. So the ESG risk assessment is like you trying to look at, okay, you want to invest, what are the likely ESG issues in this investment that you need to pay attention to in terms of, for instance, oil and gas, or let's say manufacturing space. And the good thing is that the World Bank EHS guideline has really given us some of the risk that we need to pay attention to in different sectors. That can serve as a kind of opportunity for us to leverage. At the same time, apart from us thinking through those risks, World Bank materials on the likely World Bank in the before we consider to invest in a particular organization, to look at what are the risks. Are there risks that are something they need to pay attention to now before we invest or not? Sometimes because some risks they are called ESG risks as a condition. Before you think of financing them, you ensure that they close it out. Some is after you finance, because if they are not serious ESG risks. You may give them that, okay, after some time they may close it out. Those one we call a condition subsequent. After you might have invested in them, you now follow up to monitoring to ensure that they are able to ensure that they close out those particular identify action plan from your ESG due diligence that you've conducted prior to you investing in an organization. So one of the critical things about ESG is that it's not something you do after investment. It's something that needs to form part of your, before you make investment or you decide to invest in an organization. You look at it, what are the ESG risks? What are those risks? And those particular risks too, if there are conditions subsequent, they need to form part of your offer letter, that you, part of the clauses that you need to give to that client to close out in signing in providing the loan to the client. The condition precedent is that those loans must be dealt with by the client that you want to invest in before you decide to give them the loan. Especially if they are found to be so serious. For instance, issue about oil spillage that is causing, or issue about serious community issues that you do not pay attention to may affect the investment that you want to provide to them. So that kind of issue, you need to ensure that they close it out before you decide to invest in that kind of organization. So another thing is that, of course, the ESG team, the sustainability team, they are in charge of conducting the due diligence in the financial space, but they need to work very well with the relationship management investment team, who they will be able to have day-to-day interaction with those people to ensure that they close out on those identify action plans from the environmental angle. And one of the most of the time is that, of course, a lot of sustainability, they are very minimal in which they require support from different organizations, different units, especially relationship team, to ensure that the appropriate due diligence how to investment, the relationship team are expected to reach out to the investment, to the ESG team so that they can conduct appropriate due diligence that will form part of the process they will put into the offer letter, or that part of what will help the management to make the right decision, to know whether to invest or not to invest in an organization. So another critical thing today is that ESG reporting and disclosure requirement. We see that a lot of institutional investors today, they require organizations to report on what they are doing with regard to ESG. So growing concerns from the investors about, they want to know how well their loan, the money they give you is performing. So they want to request for reporting. We also see growing concern about the IFRS S1 is a new standard, as the Financial Reporting Council has indicated that the organization are expected to start reporting to try to align your financial performance with non-financial performance, trying to link how well ESG issues can affect your financial statement. So that's another critical issue that is not being of concern today, trying to see about how do you report in that regard to see that we know that GRI, Global Reporting Initiative, is the widely used reporting standard or the worldwide. But today now, the IFR is trying to see how how to align that other reporting requirement and ensure that we have a kind of a global baseline for reporting, such that we can use that for investors can easily make their decision using based on your report using the IFRS S1 and S2. The IFRS S1 is about sustainability-related disclosure, and the S2 is about climate-related disclosure. So this actually would help in providing, this will help organizers to make the right decision. Also the investors to know how well you are actually integrating or embedding ESG as part of your process, to also work with you to improve on your ESG. That's the essence of. Also stakeholders too are very important are very particular about how well you are performing. That's why the essence of ESG reporting. Even some employees, they may want to read about your report, how well you treat your employee before they think about joining your organization. That's the essence of having in place ESG reporting and disclosure, to see how well you've been able to integrate ESG as part of the process, how well you align with best practices in terms of your ESG journey. Because we know ESG is a journey. That's organizations to set target, short term, medium term, and long term, for them to be able to achieve their ESG goal. So today, financial space and financial sector, they're also thinking about ESG focused financial products in terms of how can you develop a product that really has aligned with the ESG principles. At the same time, too, you're able to make profit as an organization. You solve the problem of the society. So that why you also generate profit as a firm, because of course you need to generate profit to continue to exist as a business, which is what ESG is talking about. So ESG is not saying that we should just keep spending on social responsibility, corporate responsibility, without thinking about what is the need for a firm. How well can that help you to grow your bottom line? So that's part of the ESG, as aligning ESG to your business strategy should be how that ESG can help you to really have competitive advantage to improve your financial performance. Today we think about decarbonization strategy, reducing emission, because we know it's real. It's part of what to do. We know decarbonization in the short run is very expensive. For instance, moving from the use of fossil fuel to renewable energy may have some kind of a financial cost, but in the long run, it's expected that will help you to save costs in terms of reducing your dependence on buying a lot of fossil fuels or fuel and all those things that can save costs in the long run. And in the short run, sometimes it may be expensive, but in the long run, it will be worth it. So that's another area where people are always scared to really focus on invest on ESG issues, because they see that in the short run, it may be that expensive. But if you think about the long run as a business, because you are not just thinking about now, you are thinking about the future. So that will help you to think about how you can make that decision now, and also help the environment at the same time to think about the continuous existence of a business in the long run. So we have different regulations, some regulations, standards, and framework that is actually shaping ESG, that is driving the adoption of ESG, even within the financial space and different sectors as well. With the Global Reporting Initiative, of course, the widely used, like I said earlier, reporting requirement. You see today now we are in IFRS S1 and S2, which our own Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, FRC, has indicated that early adoption. Currently, they have the draft report of the Adoption Readiness Working Group that is being in place. They now set their draft report of how they want organization to start implementing the IFRS S1 and S2. Organizations today are not thinking about how they can have that readiness assessment in terms of starting their journey, doing the IFRS S1 and S2, how they can move from using GRI. Also, how can they align GRI and the IFRS S1 and S2 together. You have the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that a lot of course, countries are committed to, which they also expect the private sectors to drive, which is the SDG goals. Organizations know they have some certain SDG goals that they're trying to protect, they are trying to promote. IFC performance standard also guide a lot of investment for organizations to also thinking about investment. The UN Global Compact, the UN Principle for Responsible Investment, also the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosure. That is another kind of a framework that is guiding the ESG adoption especially within the different sector, financial sector inclusive. In Nigeria, like I said earlier, we have the Nigerian Sustainable Banking Principles. We have the Climate Change Act of 2021 and the Nigerian Sustainable Finance Principles of 2016 that is meant to be adopted within the capital market. And we also have the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance. This Code of Corporate Governance is talking about how diversity of board, having a member of board that has oversight on ESG specifically. So all those particular, they are also helping to drive ESG and shape the ESG landscape within Nigeria. But the climate change act is still something that's not yet fully implemented, though there is a council in charge. But they're still trying to adopt different approach to ensure the implementation with this climate change act. Every organization is expected to have to report on how they are reducing emissions, their carbon footprint, their contributions in terms of from the ESG perspective, what they are doing from the environmental, social, and the governance perspective. So look at these, like I talk about disclosure, there are different, there are a lot of codes from the disclosure pattern. We have in the past Global Reporting Initiative, which was established in 1997. From there, we have the Equator Principle, IFRS, there is the IFRS accounting standard. So now they now have the IFRS sustainability disclosure that they're trying to align financial and non-financial reporting together. Carbon disclosure project, greenhouse gas protocol, about how can you measure your emissions, your scope 1, the one that you directly generate as a business, your scope 2, the one that from your energy use, which is almost indirect because from the national grid, and the scope 3 about your value chain. So how can you measure that? That's greenhouse protocol provide a guideline on that. We have the PRI introduced in 2005. We have the climate disclosure standard by CDSB, a different ISO 26000 talk about social responsibility. We have the SASB introduced in 2011. SASB provide a kind of organization to be able to understand their materiality, what is material to them as a business in terms of how, if they want to know what are the ESG issues, they've been able to look at the 77 sectors and industry to provide a kind of material issue that they should focus on. So SASB offers that kind of opportunity. Especially when you are trying to do your ESG diligence on a sector, you can look at the SASB requirement on what are the ESG issues you need to look at, apart from looking at the World Bank EHS guideline. So we have the corporate reporting dialogue of the EU, non-financial reporting disclosure, 2014 introduced. We have the TCFD introduced in 2015. The Sustainable Development Goals introduced in 2016, at the end of 2015, and the implementation started in 2016. The World Benchmarking Alliance, we have the World Economic Forum in 2020, GRI again modified with working with TNFD. Task Force on Nature-Related Financial Disclosure. Organizations are now starting to look at what are your contributions to nature? How are you preserving the nature, biodiversity, the plants? How are you preserving the animals from your operations, especially if you are investing in a big space, ensuring that if they must clear certain land, are there kind of animals that cannot be found, that are unique, that those animals need to be taken to other places so that we are also able to keep it for unborn generations. All those things we see changes. So today in 2023, we also see the IFRS Sustainability Disclosure Standard introduced. So today now we're talking about how to implement the ISSB, and SSB also working with different bodies to have a global baseline for reporting, especially having MOU with GRI, still working ahead to see that they're able to implement that. And what they want to achieve, their ISSB or the IFRS Foundation, is that they want to see that we have a global baseline for the report. All these changing trends, they are also driving the adoption of ESG. And some of, for instance, in some jurisdictions like UK, New Zealand, the TCFD is actually mandatory reporting. It's mandatory. That's why that for the first time in Nigeria, we're saying like a climate change act likely going, of course, is expected to be going to be mandatory. And the FRC likely, there is no going back on the FRC making the reporting on non-financial reporting mandatory. And the essence of that report is to align your financial reporting to your non-financial reporting as an organization. And this one, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. These are some of the things you may start from the policies in place, but these are some of the key steps an organization can start thinking. If you're looking at how you can integrate ESG into your core organizational process, you think about stakeholder engagement, the buy-in from within your internal stakeholders and external stakeholders are very critical in implementing integrated ESG because it's a collective effort. Everyone has to work together to ensure the implementation. So that's why the stakeholder is very critical to embedding ESG into our organization. Everybody needs to understand what is expected of them. Again, there is need for understand how are your priority and material ESG risk areas, risk and opportunities as a business. What are the sectors that you invest in? What kind of a risk inherent in those sectors? As a business, apart from, we know that financial institutions, they have minimal contribution to pollution, ESG risk. It's only from their generator use. That is majorly one of their risks. But most of the risks that they inherit is from the customers that they invest in. So that's why some organizations are not thinking, some organizations are divesting from fossil fuel or oil and gas sector and looking at renewable energy space to reduce their percentage of a percentage of a kind of a contribution to emission that they generate as a business. For instance, if most of your portfolio are like a 70% oil and gas, you want to see how can you reduce that to ensure that you are not really contributing to supporting organizations that are high emitting sector, the chemical industry, all those ones. You try to look at it, also trying to balancing it to ensure that you have some kind of finance to other sectors, so to critical sectors like the renewable energy space that can also drive growth. Or you think about the underserved communities, how can you have a product, also let them, even this token from them, from the other data token generate a lot of money for your organization, and you take them out of power people, you take them out of to your financial product. All those is thinking from the ESG angle. Another critical is that how you design an ESG action plan, what do you want to do now within a short term as a business, within the medium term and long term. For instance, if you are trying to reduce the amount of money you give out to the people in like gas or people who are dealing with the fossil fuel, you want to take okay within social period, you want to reduce it by so percent. Also for the firm, so you want to reduce your emissions from generator by so percent by using renewable energy or by closing on time to reduce your emissions. You must always have that plan to see that you are making progress, because ESG is a journey. We are not expecting you to reach that journey. Even those who have advanced, they also need to start thinking ahead of what they need to do, even if they reach certain stage, what next that you might have reached. So you must always think about the opportunities that you can generate from the ESG. Another thing is that, of course, ESG policy is very important that is in tandem with your action plan. Some people may start with having ESG policy in place before they think about that thing that is approved by the board, and then they have commitment of everyone, starting from the bottom, review the draft from the ESG team, go to the management team, approve it, and then approve it. Serve the guide the implementation of ESG. Another critical is good to set targets for implementation, because that target will help you to see, to measure your progress, how you are progressing regards to your ESG implementation requirement. What stage are you? What are the KPIs? Some people have even integrated ESG as part of KPIs, performance KPI, to see that a lot of staff, everybody is working towards the integrating ESG. Sometimes we do it voluntarily. That way we have ESG champions across different functions that will be driving ESG for internally, on our purpose, and also for outside, especially the leadership team and the ESG team. They drive it from the external, and the investor relations team, they deal with the investors. In terms of when they have questions about ESG, they work with the ESG team to ensure the implementation of ESG. So another critical is, like I said earlier, so that also, and again, another critical is about reporting. So people who want to know, so it's good to report. When you report on what you're doing, when you have that policy, you have the process, you have the framework in place that guide your reporting. It's good to report so that stakeholders who are interested in what you're doing with regard to ESG, can look at your report and see, oh, wow, really, if you're doing the right thing, and even attract investors without you even going out there to ask for investment. They'll be the one coming to you and say, we are willing to support you, to work with you, because we see that you're doing a lot in terms of the ESG. So that's another critical consideration that
Sorry, I think otherwise, sorry, you're on mute. Please, can you unmute yourself? Sorry.
oh, did you hear what I said the last? Okay, I
No,
think it
just
was,
this last one. Yes, just this last one. Yes.
okay. Okay, so like I said earlier, we know that sustainability and ESG-related concerns have become very important in making informed decisions for players in the financial service industry, especially in reducing non-performing loans for players in the sector. So it's very important that for players in the financial sector embed ESG as part of their core strategy. Today, we see that, like I said earlier, it's no longer that we see that even when you want to think about financial due diligence, you must also embed ESG due diligence. Let's say issue about mergers and acquisition. There's not the notion about before. The concern about when you want to acquire an influence is about you look at let's say a player in the manufacturing space, for instance, or you want to invest in them, you look at their how well the machines are working, technical assessment of those machines. You look at the financial assessment valuation of those properties, the assets. You look at the legal reason, any kind of legal assessment in terms of whether the regulatory requirement, are they complying? And you do not take into consideration the issue about ESG, about community concerns. Are there issues about they not having good relationship with their host communities? Are there issues about concern about the land that they are using? Is there likelihood of having people fight them back because of that land that they've not been able to acquire in the right way? They do not have the certificate of occupancy to occupy the land that they are using. So ESG is now pointing us towards the right direction, looking at even for in terms of thinking of mergers and acquisition, in terms of thinking about investment, in terms of thinking about dealing with any organizations. ESG has not shaping that because we understand that failure to take into consideration ESG can affect the performance of an investment. That's why organizations are now really paying serious attention to ESG issues. And based on that, now we now know that it's no longer the buzzword that people think it is. It's now the must have for an organizations if they must achieve ESG. And the critical thing about ESG is that there must be synergies across cross-functional units within an organization. It's not just that's why every member every member within an organization must understand what is ESG. ESG needs also to be integrated as part of the strategy in the sense that core values. People need to understand what is ESG, what does it mean to the business? How, for instance, the short definition may be that how can we keep the business to exist for long? Who you invest to? How do you ensure that you want to invest in companies that they are there, they are here to stay? Not the company that you invest in today, and at the end of the tomorrow you hear that they have issues and they can no longer exist as a business. Because that's what ESG is talking about. How can we keep this business that we have today? How can we ensure that in the next 100 or 200 or 300 and 500 years, this business still exists? What can we do? How do we care about the environmental issues? How do we care about the people, social angle? How do we put in place the right governance system in place? Working with different teams, the human resource in terms of people issues, working with the admin in terms of ensuring that we reduce the carbon emissions, working with different teams, collaboration across functions and having championing the ESG, working with the relationship management team to ensure that they follow up on the identify ESG action plan that client needs to close out, to ensure that you avoid any form of non-performing loan. You ensure that those particular also working with to support your client or prospective client in terms of nudging them in the right direction to do the right thing from the ESG perspective, so that they do not give you a kind of a reputational risk or think about credit risk to you as their investor. So those are the very critical issues that you must look at and you must try to pay attention to as an organization. So I think thank you so much for your time. This is the end of my presentation. So it's now room for question and answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Adewalila. Thank you so much. I mean, everyone on the call, you can agree with me that this has been an informative session. I have learned a lot, and I hope you've learned a lot also. I just do like a quick summary for, what has been said today. We all heard that ESG is not just a buzzword anymore. It is a critical factor that is shaping how the world is evolving today. I know some of you on the call might just say, oh, this is not an individual problem. Maybe it's a company problem. Maybe my institution should be the one driving it. But like he said that it requires a collective effort of every member of the organization. So you can actually be a champion in your organization, be the ESG champion, provide ESG initiatives to your board members, to your management on how you can drive change, positive change across the organization. Okay, and then also individually, let me just give an example of how it can affect you, because ESG, it entails environmental, social, and the governance aspect. So we have seen that several companies, there's some companies that have failed as a result of bad governance. And then just imagine if you were someone who bought the stocks of those companies, right? And then as a result of bad governance, it actually failed. And then your investment has automatically wiped out because of the bad governance of the company. But if you had looked out for ESG factors before investing in that company or before buying the stocks of the company, you might have been able to find out one or two issues, right, that would tell you, oh, okay, I don't think I want to be involved with this company because they do not have sustainability strategies. There are issues here. Maybe they have their corporate governance is not good, or maybe they don't treat their employees well, or because you will definitely find reviews come out on the internet. So these are just things, and we had several benefits of what ESG can do for us as an institution, as an individual. It will help you increase reputational ground as an institution, attract investors, reduce business costs. You'll be able to attract talent to your organization, right? So in summary, ESG is a journey. It is not something that we expect that everybody should, oh, we should get it right now, immediately. No, we know that we cannot get it right immediately, but it is a journey. So it involves you making intentional steps, right? Making effort to making that change, driving that positive change wherever you find yourself in. So you set short-term goals and you set long-term goals. And then at the end of the day, we'll be able to achieve this collective goal for our unborn generations and also for our environment. Thank you so much. So we'll go straight to questions. I think Mr. Ayuba Ayinde, I think you have a question for us. So you can unmute and then ask your question. You can also type your questions in the chat box if you don't want to ask your questions directly. So Mr. Ayuba Ayinde, you can unmute, please.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you
Okay.
to the facilitator for the well-presented training, and is more like an eye opener for someone like us in the trying to, deepen our interest in the EIG and sustainability space. But my question is that I've been able to look into the bank, Dangote, and some other firms that are taking the lead in this initiative. But one thing I've been able to notice in terms of disclosure is that they try to disclose around frameworks like the TCFD, and the GRI. So my question is, are we trying to, is there no singular kind of strategy where, or kind of a format that company can use in reporting, where if you are to follow the TCFD, that's what you're using. If you are to follow the GRI, then that's what you're using. Or if you are to follow the S1 and S2. So what is it more like? I understand the fact that there is work towards us having a baseline for reporting, but even with Nigerian companies I've seen so far, they are still trying to use the TCFD, the GRI, and they're reporting it not like someone is using TCFD, another one is using GRI. I'm seeing in that report where they incorporate both the GRI and the TCFD in their reporting. So that's my question. Like, are we to do this is that how we're going to be reporting, or we can just choose the one we actually want to leverage on? Then secondly, are we supposed to have a standalone reporting like sustainability reports like on its own, or more like integrated reporting where we can have, just like the way you have an annual, our financial statements, then we now incorporate these ESG related issues into it, like they are like an integrated reporting, or we can have it as a standalone reporting in itself. So I actually want to take clarity about that.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, your question. So actually, we know that today there are a lot of reporting requirements. Like I said during my presentation, GRI is widely used. And you can see that if you look at GRI, their website, you see that it's very, the standard, the approach is really well detailed for reporting. That's why a lot of people are still using GRI. Even the IFRS S1 and S2, they try to incorporate the element of GRI because the GRI has really tried. But what IFRS is trying to do is to achieve that baseline for reporting, where we still incorporate the core element of the GRI, TCFD, and other requirement. But of course, there is another challenge now with we have the European Sustainability Reporting Standard for the European Union, which IFRS ISSB is trying to work towards to see that how they can also integrate. It's been a lot of areas that is evolving. But for Nigeria, I think now with the FRSC commitment now, is for us to look at how we can use the IFRS sustainability disclosure as a guideline, as a baseline for our reporting. Even though we will not remove the core element of it will still incorporate the element of GRI and some of the element of TCFD. If you look at the IFRS S1 and S2, the component is basically from TCFD. They've been able to align very well with TCFD. So meaning that with that, there will not be an issue on that. So in terms of when you talk about what kind of, do we have a standalone reporting or do we have an integrated reporting? What the IFRS is actually proposing is more like, even though not saying it directly, it's like if you want to compare financial performance with non-financial performance, it is important to have an integrated reporting. That would be, they are giving us the kind of opportunity to decide on what to do. But in my view, I think it should be better to have an integrated reporting to be able to align that the financial performance with non-financial performance. I don't know if that has answered your question.
Yes, thank you. It has. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yuba. Any other question for our speaker today? Do we have any other question? Okay, just to say this before, maybe in case of, we'll be sharing the slides to our participants, and also we'll have the recorded webinar on our website soon, so you can access it to, deepen your understanding if you missed out anything during the presentation also. So going back to questions, I don't know if we'll have further questions. Okay, I see no hands raised. I think we'll be coming down to the end of the session. So, okay, so we have Mr. Yemi. Yes, Mr. Yemi Akigbe, please go ahead to ask your questions, please. Mr. Yemi.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much. My question borders on the presentation of the ESG on the financial statement.
Okay.
How is it going to be? Is it going to be before or as a note to the financial statement, or is it going to be as a form of policy financial statement?
I didn't get you very clearly.
I mean
Maybe
the presentation.
It's like I cannot hear you. Maybe can you speak? Maybe your speaker.
Yeah, the presentation is what I'm looking at. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you now. Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes.
Yeah, I'm talking about the presentation of the financial statement. Is it going to be as a form of policy, as a company policy, or is going to be a note to the financial statement, or is going to come before the director's report to director's report or director's responsibilities? In what format is it coming in the financial statement?
Okay, yeah, I think that is still another bone of contention now. If you look at the adoption readiness working group, they're trying to see, but I will just give my own opinion on that. I think it's better to comes after the director's statement. But a lot of people, you look at it, it's still open for people to think in terms of that's what the adoption readiness working group is trying to say. But basically, for the reporting, what they're trying to say is that what the ESG issues and how does it affect financial statement? So what are the cost implications? What are the savings from that? So really, I think you also be taken in consideration in reporting. But it's still not clear cut on that area. It's still something that they are trying to see, okay, because they give the organization opportunity to decide on what to do with regards to that. But the good thing is that you must let it be clear so that we can help for us for the comparison between the financial performance and the non-financial performance. But the people are still open to look at, to use their discretion to see how well that the people can easily the readers can get access to that. Because the essence is for them to be able to see your financial performance and non-financial performance being reported together, and then so that we will be able to understand it, how that ESG should affect your financial statement. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Yemi. Any other questions for our speaker today? Do we have any other questions? Okay, so we're moving to the end of this presentation. Just a thing to note that the ESG integration, there's no one size fits all for all organizations. I mean, the level of ESG integration for a financial institution will be different for the level of ESG integration for an oil and gas company or a cement manufacturing sector. And so that's why you have, yes, I know that we in Nigeria, we're yet to develop a baseline for reporting, but that's why we see that several companies adopt several reporting um, standards, reporting initiatives, and they equally state this when they are reporting that we have adopted this reporting standard, and so we are going in line with that, just so that they're able to disclose their ESG practices to their stakeholders. And so, you can read more on yeah, I mean the internet has a lot of resources for ESG, so you can read more. You can go visit those reporting standards that we have talked about, GRI, TCFD, find out what they are all about, and equip yourself with that knowledge. And so this is our first webinar series as at Quantum Zenith on ESG, and so we'll be having a lot more of the series with this year. So please just look out for our mails. We'll be sending out several mails on ESG, so you can join our webinar, you can learn more, and you can become a leader in the space. Thank you so much once again, everyone, for sharing your time with us here today. We really appreciate a very big thank you to our distinguished speaker for sharing your valuable knowledge with us today and our audience. Thank you, and do have a wonderful day. Yes. So bye. Bye, everyone.
All right, thank you.